Hello everyone and welcome to Hugo's Desk. My name is Hugo and today I am going to go with part 3 of Rival Kingdoms. So it's going to be part 3 of Hugo Deconstructs the Rival Kingdoms compositing. Very excited about this episode, but first of all I should just warn you that if you haven't seen episode 1 and episode 2, please stop this video. And of course, before you stop it, like the video, subscribe to my channel, and then you can stop the video, and then you can go back and watch part 1 and part 2. If you look down at the moment, there is like right here, somewhere here, there should be a link for you to actually go directly to part 1 or part 2 if you haven't seen them again. I really would recommend, otherwise you won't really follow this video very good way. Before I start as well, I have to say thank you to everyone that watched the video. I am so overwhelmed by all your words, your kind words. Everyone has been really great on the comments, and everyone has been placing awesome comments on the comments thread. I think people are quite happy with what I'm doing, so I'm going to continue doing it. I have plenty more composites to show you. This is just the first one. So please keep those comments coming and keep those likes coming. I am really happy that you guys are enjoying what I'm trying to do here. So without further ado, let's go and jump into the comp. Last time, I think I was right at the end. I was talking about motion blur and I was talking about depth pass and about photography. So we're going to pick up the comp exactly where we left off. You guys know that this is not a composite where we are actually comping the shot together. We're actually going through the comp that was already done previously. So this is the production comp. And then we actually just go step by step and find out what we're doing. So this is where we were. We were basically on the defocus area of the comp. Now, next up comes a merge node. Now, this merge node, what is this merge node doing? This merge node is only really doing something that was a client request. The client request that they requested to have the ancients, which were the big ancients from the game, to actually be at the very back of the big cave. So of course it looks a bit wrong right now because there's no atmosphere, but this is nothing more than a still. So we got a still from the CG department. This is a still from Staffan, and it's basically just the ancients with a very simple lighting, lighting from the below, because there's like all these torches lighting them up. I didn't even bother to do any pass or multi-pass compositing because, this is the thing. You should always judge where you actually need to do certain things. It was way too complicated to do multi-pass compositing there, so I didn't do it. I just left the beauty. Of course, I did make sure that all my color correction was done using pre-multiplication and pre-multiplication. I did some color correction to basically match the black points, so the black points would match to the rest of the comp. Also, I tried to match my white points, so I basically only have a bit of lift and a bit of multiply and gamma just to match those white points and those black points. Bit of hue correction as well. I wanted to kind of get rid of some of this saturation because normally when you have things much further away from screen, they lose their saturation. So that was the objective there. I also mirrored it because it was a lot nicer to have the axe lady on the side, and then I did a bit of crop, and the crop was just to crop the bottom so that they would be on the floor. Then this went into a 3D system. The 3D system was nothing more than a card, a really silly card. Could have been cropped a lot more, but I didn't because, sometimes I am pretty lazy. But this is, again, a production composite. So it will have mistakes. It will have things that are a bit weird. But that's just, hey, the thing is, on this scene, of course, I did use the position pass to know where to put them. I haven't linked that anymore, but I am going to link that so that you can see it. So I'm just going to really quickly just get the position pass so you guys see it. I think the position pass was here. Yes, it was. So I'm just going to link it up so that we actually see it with the position pass so that you see why I had that node there. Just give me a second. You'll see. And if you just wait a few seconds, because the position pass this does take a bit of time, then you'll see it popping up. Should be popping up any minute. Oh, sorry. Yeah, it will pop up once I actually activated it. I don't have it active, so that was stupid. Sorry about that. Yeah, here we go. Now, the position pass, of course, served as an aid to try to understand where they should be in the scene. Now, of course, the client wanted them to be very, very far away, so I've used the position passes to try to figure out where, in terms of a height of the camera, they should be. So that's where they are, just at the actual bottom of the position, so that it looks like that there is a huge, even bigger cave on the back where they're actually sitting. So that's what we did here. And then, of course, there was just, basic crop. This crop box was just to try to see if this was going faster. As always, I always try to crop, to get the scripts to go faster. This is a tip that I learned from Frank Ruther, from his amazing tutorials at FX, at the Foundry. So you should check out his tutorials. He's a really good compositor, really good visual effects artist as well. So that was it pretty much. So that's merging those guys. So that's it. I'm not going to spend much more time on that. Now that we've covered the entire section of the layer where we have the cave, the fire, and now we're going to go to the background. Now the background is nothing more than a constant. I started the actual background at the very, very back of the field is nothing more than a constant with a grade node, and that's it. It had a ramp because on certain shots I want to have a bit of light on the horizon, not on this shot, because I copy paste all the scripts between. Sometimes I leave certain things that are not relevant. The other thing is also that it's not relevant because I did copy paste is the light wrap. I mean, there's no point of having light wrap since we are merging this on a black background. So this light wrap, of course, will be very useful on other shots. And again, because this is a copy paste setup that I've made for all the shots, you always find certain things that are not as important as they should. Once we go through this, I want to talk a little bit about this. I always do this. Once I merge two layers together and they actually kind of match as much as I can, I tend to spend some time making a fog. Now, the fog here is made by a depth pass. I start by shuffling out the depth pass. Now, this depth pass is the pre-graded depth pass. I'm going to go to the first frame so you can see it a bit better. And this is the filtered depth pass. When I did the depth pass, as I recall, I did create a new channel. Yes, exactly. So I had this one was the graded ZDEP, and then at some place here I had the other ZDEP, which was the filtered. Yeah, exactly. So that's the filtered one. So in here on my tech pass, I did request my CG artist. I'm just going to put a bit of gamma so that you see it. I requested my CG artist to create my depth pass so that I can actually use it. And it's inside a file called other. So if I go to the R, the red channel of my other, you see that I have basically what looks like a filtered fog. And this has been a common thing that I've been doing in composites. Whenever I work with a CG artist, I always request him to make me a filtered depth pass, because the non-filtered depth pass is perfect for defocusing. As you saw, it's great for you to actually fix the edges using the edge extend and the color edge. But the filtered one is really good to make fog effects, and you want it filtered because you want to make sure it matches all the edges, and that's why I had it filtered. Now, I did a bit of grading. The grading was just to get the black point, white point of the actual fog. Then I did a bit of eroding as well, and I did a bit of pre-multiplication. Now, the eroding is just because I wanted to fix, there was a mistake, like a little piece of geometry that was on the top, and so I had a roto to fix it, and also I have a roto to fix the hole here. So you see, this is just basically to make it black. So after doing some color correction, doing some erode, I used then this as my base for the fog. And then not only I did that, but I did also make some ramps. And basically what happens here is I have a ramp that is cutting on the middle. Then that is then cut by a center hole with a radial, and then color corrected it. And that's merged on top. Now, the reason I did that was because I wanted to have a background that matched the fog elements. So because my fog was black here, which is not going to help me, this is going to basically not work as a fog. Then what I did was I made a ramp to have the same value as what you have on the actual pillars. And that's why when you merge, it almost looks like it's all completely merged. But if I gamma down, you can see that what I did here was I basically faked a depth background that I would merge then on here so that we would fill up all this black area. So that's pretty much it. Now, once that's all done, this now becomes an RGB red channel mask that I'm going to use then. This is going to be used on my grade node. Now, the grade node, I tend to use lift to make a fog effect. A fog effect usually works better if you do a lift. This is then piped into that grade node. That grade node then is set to red. The reason it's set to red is because you want to make sure you use what's done on this shot. All this composite with all these radials. So just going to recap, I have a filtered depth, graded it, eroded it so that I can cut the hole on the middle. I then cut the hole on the middle. Of course, I have black here, which is not good. Then I use the combination of one ramp plus another merged together, and then another radial for the middle graded on top so that I would then fake a background depth that would be merged on top of the depth that I have already. And now that's kind of like a fog pass that I have. That's plugged in into the mask input of this grade node. Now, because the alpha channel is wrong, it's the red channel that you're after, and that's why my grade node is set to red. Once I do that, you see that the lift is, if I disable it, you see what I'm doing here is the lift is basically giving me this really nice fog effect. Now, I tinted it as well, so I have a little tint of blue. So there's a little bit of saturation there and a little bit of tint of cold so that it looks like it's a lot colder. So usually when you make a fog with a bit of a blue tint, it tends to make it look like it's really big. You know, that was the idea, was for it to look like it's a gigantic area. So that's pretty much for my fog. So that's my first attempt to the fog. I have other nodes later on where I put some fog as well. From this moment on, there is something else that happens here, and this is the glow. Now, the glow was something that I wanted to make out of the fire so that you have, you know, whenever you have fire present on the image, you always makes this kind of really nice glowy effect, you know, which is like a spreading effect of, you know, of atmosphere when you have something with a strong light. I know I did some glows already in the actual comp, that is true, but I did, you know, I did not want it to be cut by the alpha. Now, of course, the glow could have been done on the passes, and of course, the reason I didn't do it on the passes is because I wanted to make sure that the glow would not be cut by its alpha. And so this is what I have, and this is what I usually call a two-step glow. Now, it's called a two-step glow because I tend to use, you know, I tend to use one glow which is very thin, and that glow is going to be the one that is going to affect, you know, the spread of the highlight when the sun hits something. And then I have another smaller glow. So, for example, give an example of this pass. And here I'm basically shuffling out the raise directional. And the reason for that is because I want to pretend that there is like some breaks on the ceiling. And those breaks on the ceiling, for perhaps maybe they've opened up some light rays in. Maybe they actually, you know, lifted up the highlights of this. So with that in mind, I've made two glows. One glow is a very large glow, so that's a size of 100. I don't even touch the tolerance. The reason I don't touch the tolerance is because this is pretty contrasted already. I don't think I need to touch the tolerance. Once I have that one, it's about 100 of spread because I want a very, very large glow. The other glow, on the other hand, is, as you can see, much brighter. So I have a 3.5 and then I only have 3 of glow. Now what that gives me is that it gives me this nice, very nice glowy feeling when you have something like sunny hitting a wall. That's the idea. Once I have those two, then I combine them together. And the combination of both will give me a spread of light that is usually an optical illusion from the lens. And then the other one is the really bright light hitting the wall. That gets screened over. Now, those things get screened over as a screen. The reason it's a screen because I'm not interested on any of these things to become even more overexposed. So then I use a screen. Now, on the other hand, on this side, I'm doing the same exact thing with the fires. So I have one glow for the broad fire. Now, I should warn you that I am using effect only. I'm using effect only because I'm interested on screening all these effects, not plussing them. Because by default, the glow node uses a plus, not a screen. And this is the same deal. I have a spread glow, and then I have a very small glow. And again, the spread glow is about 100 of size, and then the small glow is about 3 of size. And the two of them combine gives me this kind of nice effect of light, and then they get screened on top. As they get screened on top, what they do is both this one, if I'm going to just zoom into an area where you see both of them, if I disable and enable these two, so you see what they do, they basically bring up all the nice highlights of the fire reflection hitting the wall, and also they make this really nice haze that you usually get when you have a lens photographing something like this, especially because it's supposed to be a very big area. It's supposed to be gigantic. So because it's supposed to be gigantic, you should always try to do a two-step glow. So remember that, guys. Two-step glow, a large glow merged with a very tiny glow. And that usually gives you a really nice diffuse image. Now, before I go into the rest of the comp, because we're almost done here, I am going to go back and actually go through some of the things that we did per passes, because I don't think we did that on the last recording. So going back to my passes, we never went back because we were not finishing the shot. Now that we're finishing the shot, we should probably go back. And the reason I did all of this shenanigan was because I wanted to tweak the passes separately. Like we talked on the first episode, it's all about having a mindset of a shader rebuilding, that's the idea. And so with that in mind, I started with my GI. Now my GI is the global illumination section. So because if it's the global illumination section, it's always wiser for you to actually try to bounce it a bit more, because it gives a bit of nice feeling to the image. It gives it like dynamic. It gives it like a bit of structure. So I'm going to show you what I've done here. So I've shuffled out the depth pass. I then graded that depth pass. I then Z-slice. Now, the Z-slice is a node that allows you to, like the name says, slice a little bit of Z. And the reason I did a Z-slice is because we wanted to animate the lights coming on. So, at some point on the shot, we have the lights all like doom, 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 doom. They all light up. I'm going to actually show you the final result of that. So if I show you the final comp, you see the comp starts with just a blue environment. There's nothing there. And as it plays, you see the lights pop up. And the lights pop up one at a time. Now, because this was too difficult to animate in CG, we decided to do this in post, so that we would have all these lights popping up in post-production. And the way that I figured out that we could do that was to actually combine, color correction and combining this layer here. Now, the way it works is I'm having basically the Z. If I show you, if I go to the end, like the actual raw pass always has the lights on. So you see, the lights are always on, but they need to turn on. That's the idea. I need to have them turn on one at a time. So by shuffling the Z-depth, color correcting the Z-depth, and also having to animate the Z-depth because we are, of course, a moving camera, then using the Z-slice. The Z-slice, like the name says, it basically animates a slice of the Z. So once you color correct the Z, you then can use the Z-slice to do effects like this. It's almost like doing a depth mask. You don't need to use the Z-slice to do this. You could also use the position pass, for example. The position pass would work also for this kind of effect that I'm trying to achieve here. Just going to wait a little bit so it shows you a bit more. For those of you that don't know the Z-slice, it's really worth checking out. It's a really good node, and not a lot of people use it. And I know it makes a really rough mask, but it doesn't really matter because we're only going to use it for certain tasks. So it doesn't need to be perfect. I'm just going to play it as it is now. You can at least see. So you see, this is what happens. The Z-slice gives you this effect, which is exactly what you want. You want pillar by pillar to grow. And the Z-slice is basically animating the Z in. So the more we move forward, the more we see the Z-depth. That's what the Z-slice is doing. So that is then linked into a color corrector and a hue correct. Now, if I disable them, you see what happens here is that color corrector and hue correct is removing all the little hints of red from that fire. That's the idea. And so that is a quite effective tool, because then as it lights up, you see it lights up all that red that was missing. That's what it is, and then it jumps to the next one. I'm gonna go to the other side because the other side is easier for you guys to see the effect happening. Just gonna preview for a little bit here. Okay, well, this is enough to show you. So you see now I'm basically bringing in all the fire, and this is gonna bring in all the fire on the pillars. Now once that's done, then this gets also multiplied by the diffuse. Now that's just a simple multiplication like we saw before, and this is where if you look at it through the multiplication, that's where you see the fire opening up. See, it lights up a little bit at a time. Now if we go to the light, we then split all the light up. Now all these color corrections are just basically me trying to get the lights to work. Now of course I don't tend to do them one at a time. I tend to have the full RGB, and then I work from my full RGB and I start fiddling around with certain things. So for example, in here, this grade node is nothing more than bouncing a bit of light because I wanted to have a nice sense of shadow. You know, when you have these kind of big rooms, it's really nice when you have a fire torch illuminating the area. It's nice to see some black areas so that you see the shadows hitting it. I also have a color correctors to contrast that shadow more. So these two grade nodes, that's what they're doing. They're basically lifting up the shadows and the highlights. I'm gonna make this a bit bigger so that you see a bit more. So that's the fill diffuse. Then when we go into the raise diffuse, what I'm doing here is I'm basically lifting up those highlights so that it looks like it's a sunny day outside. So nothing more than a multiplication, a very strong multiplication on those rays. So you see this is just a ray pass. I put a bit of multiplication so that it really becomes overexposed, and it's completely okay for it to be overexposed. It doesn't really matter. That's the whole point. It is supposed to go overexposed because it's the sun. When the sun hits something, you tend to have overexposure. Then I do a bit of color correction just to make sure that it's still working. I'm gonna just leave this this big. So that's for the raise diffuse. Then I go into the rim diffuse. Now the rim diffuse makes this. I'm using radial. The reason I'm using radial is because the rim diffuse wasn't very powerful. As you can see, you hardly can see it. Now, by pumping in the multiplication, then you get this really nice rim with the structure of the stones. That's what you want to bring up. It's really nice, all those things. And then I have a color corrector. Now this radial is making sure that I'm focusing just on the top. I don't want to push the rims on the sides. The reason for that is because it's ugly as hell. As you can see, this is a really ugly texture. So by just having a little simple radial just on the top, then you can focus your color correction just on the top. It's much, much more interesting. And this is going to give you a very interesting little rim light just popping up on the top there. You see, if I enable and disable it, it just gives you this little nice fill of light. Again, all these things are not mandatory. This is just me playing around with the shot. You know, I have a couple of references of how it should look. You know, I have some concept art, but because I'm directing it myself, I'm completely free of having my own opinion. So I can direct how the light should look. I don't have to wait for any director to talk about it, which is a very, very amazing feeling to actually then have feedback. It's great. So that the feedback is your own feedback. It's great. It's fantastic. So those highlights are really going to give it a bit of character. So together with the light that is hitting the columns here, it just gives it that extra little touch. Now from that moment on, I go into the torch diffuse. Now the torch diffuse brings in the light on the torch. So again, I have this here. So it basically bounces some light into the torch. And then I also have some contrast for it to look like more like fire. Now all of this is connected to a curve noise. The curve noise is nothing more than giving me basically a curve. And this is just the pulsating effect of the fire. So I use this node. This is a curve factory. You can find this on Nukipedia. Thank you so much, Harrison Lee. Lee, I guess it's Harrison Lai, probably. I'm sorry, guys. I'm Portuguese, so sometimes I do these things wrong, as I was told. So the Curve Factory is something that you can find on Nukipedia. It's a really, really awesome curve manager. Like you basically can create curves with amplitude, frequency, phase, center. So instead of coming up with a really, really weird Python script, you can just do it yourselves. And that's going to give the pulsating effect of the fire so that when the fire is pulsing, it actually grows like that. And as you can see, the curve editor is actually attached to quite a lot of different parts. Once I go here, that then gets merged. And as you can see, I'm just gonna show you that. So this is then just the fire getting merged in, and the fire of course gets merged in throughout the entire comp. When I'm happy with that, then I go back to the specular. So I've done all the light. This is not the speculars, it's the reflections. I start with the rim specular. Now the rim specular, let's see, in here I have all three things done here. So I start by pushing a bit of light into it. Again, I'm then going to do a bit of grading just on the top so that I have a bit more reflections on the rims, and I'm using a radial just to focus on the top because it's going to be more interesting. And then I contrasted it a little bit so that I have, the reason I'm contrasting it with a color corrector is that I want to peak all these little highlights. The reason for that is to make it look like there's a lot of light coming either from the back or coming from the actual torches. Then from that moment on, I go into the torch specular. Now the torch specular is nothing more than the reflections of the torches. So I start by having just the torch. I start multiplying it up, then I multiply it even a bit more, and then I multiply it even a bit more, so that I have this really nice looking, fire looking texture on the floor. You see, this kind of reminds me of one of these Duke Nukem or Doom or Quake levels where you had the torches actually illuminating everything. So it always had this kind of lighting aspect to it. Then that gets merged as well, and that will give me this. It will basically give me this nice hint of red reflection in the floor. That's pretty much it, what it is. From there, I go to the ray specular. Now, the ray speculars, or just basically just some more power on the highlights of the speculars. If you look at the pass itself, it's only that. So I'm only increasing the gamma of that ray so that I can push a bit more light into the wall. And then the rest is just nothing else. I haven't done any more color correction. So at this stage, this is what we have. So we started, let me go back to what we started with. We started with this. So we started with something like this. That's the original CG. So this is the original CG from Staffan. It's the original CG from Redox. And I then go in. The reason I'm doing all these things is that I'm pushing the highlights to get a lot more texture on the wall. I'm pushing the nice reflections on the floor. I'm pushing all the torches so that the highlights are growing a lot more. So that's what I'm doing there. So it kind of works really, really well. That's really it, really. Okay, and I'm going to wrap up for today. We are already running quite long. I don't want these videos to be too long. Otherwise, they're going to be a bit boring. So, but I do promise that I will be faster to do the final part. The final part also will be a little smaller. Basically, on the final part, we are going to basically talk about the last little details. We still have to talk a little bit about the fire torches coming in. We still have to talk a little bit about all the lights on the ceiling. We also have to talk about all the volumes coming in through the roof. We also have to talk about final touches like diffusing. We also have some final color correction, some radials, some vignetting, some lens distortion, some grain. So there's still a lot to do, but it will be much shorter, and I will promise to you that it will be up in a couple of days. It won't take this long. I've just been very busy, and that's why I couldn't give you the video this fast. But you guys understand, you know how it is. You all get really busy as well. So I really hope you've enjoyed this part 3. We are going to wrap up with part 4 in a couple of days. So as always, like my video. Don't forget also to subscribe to Hugo's Desk, where you can find tutorials like this one. You can also find all my ramblings with video games, where I actually interview some developers. I also do a lot of playing of gaming as well, and I do some special interviews as well on my channel. So go and check all my videos. Of course, please don't be shy. Put as many comments as you want, even if it's comments that you don't like this video. Please do. Please tell me, because I am making this for you guys, for my subscribers. So the more feedback you guys give me, the better I can make these videos. So please give me feedback, and then I can create better videos and, more information and more tutorials for you guys. So I really hope you've enjoyed. Also follow me as always in Twitter, so you can see what I'm up to, at Hugo C. Guerra. If you want, and if you're kind enough, you can also support me on Patreon and toss me a buck. If you can't support me on Patreon and toss me a buck or two, then it's fine. Don't worry, these videos will always be free. So that's all good. It's just to help me, nothing else. So I had a blast again to show you all of this. I really hope you've enjoyed it, and I'm gonna see you guys in a couple of days. And thank you so much for watching, and please leave some comments below. Bye bye.